Even Oprah Winfrey was like, hey, AI is going to replace, all the workers. And you're like,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
we've been
yes.
through this before. It's not, right? This world is.
Welcome to the We Talk Post podcast with me, Sylvia Peter. I am your host for today. I'm the marketing manager at Dkloud Consulting, and I have with me Scott Stafford. Scott is this is his debut on the pod. I'm going to just give a little bit of clap for that. This is Scott's debut on the podcast, and Scott is a senior pre-sales leader and AI solutions leader in the Salesforce ecosystem, or is it just the Salesforce ecosystem? Or
I actually attend quite a few other events just outside of
okay,
Salesforce. I have a broad
okay,
perspective of tech. But wow,
okay.
thank you so much, right? This is such an honor.
That's
Uh,
fine. That's fine. Thank you. So we're going to be exploring the topic, the future of AI in enterprise sales operations. And Scott, so I'll just go like this. What do you think separates organizations that are truly transforming with AI from those that are simply adding AI to broken systems?
Yeah, I think when you approach it, about an enterprise company is approaching AI first, right? The mindset should be what I call an AI overlay or a band-aid and simply take existing, functionality and then swap AI out there. We've been through something like that before. We had the Industrial Revolution. And what actually happened is a lot of factories had like steam engines powering it. And they thought, hey,
Mm,
we'll just swap out those steam engines and we'll put electric motors. But remarkably, what actually happened is there was no productivity gain. You just swapped
mm,
out one motor for the other. But a few years later, they started rebuilding factories and they said, hey, we have a new technology. We don't necessarily have to have all the machinery be right next to each other. Right? We can use this electricity and put things apart and make a more efficient system. And I think there's a big parallel there, right? When you think about AI and you think about what its characteristics are, and then design AI first, right? It really will make a difference. Don't just look at your existing workflow, but look about and think about what could we do? What could be new opportunities for innovation within your
mm,
company, within industry in general, right? And then just for the humans, right? We need to step life up to the next level. I'm all
yeah.
about that.
Next level. Okay, awesome. So in your experience, what have you seen that one problem that business leaders who say, "Oh, we want AI, we want to, start integrating AI into our systems." What do you think is that one problem that they're trying to solve when it comes to sales operations when they talk about that?
Yeah, I think what I see a lot is that people get really excited. I mean, because AI can do amazing things. You have that chat GPT moment, and you see what it can
Yeah.
do, and they dive in too broadly, right? They think they're going to transform everything. And the real solution is actually just pick a small, meaningful part of your workflow first, right? And then go ahead and bring in AI, right? Think about the whole process from the beginning to the end, right? How you would re-engineer it. And then you probably heard this everywhere. It's coming up and up. Data feeds AI. So if your data isn't clean, right? If your data isn't relevant, you're not going to have a great agentic solution. So with that in mind, I'm not saying necessarily, wait until all your data is clean, but go ahead and figure out your segment that you want to initialize AI with and then make sure that that data is prepped. And then as you go through the process of implementing that agentic solution, you'll fine tune that data to get the output that you're looking for. Because there's a relationship, right, between the data, right, and the AI itself. So
Mm,
what data might have been good for a normal workflow might not necessarily bring out the optimal, characteristics of an agentic solution.
mm, mm. So you just talked about what leaders need to do before they even, think about putting this system in place, putting AI in their operations, right? But what do you think from your experience? What do you think that is that one problem? that they are looking to solve? Because AI is everywhere. It's quite popular now, which is good. But I'm thinking maybe there's this one problem that they have in mind that they want to solve. Do you think it's a sales problem? Do you think it's a process problem? What do you think, in your opinion, is that thing that leaders are looking to solve with AI?
Yeah, from the sales perspective, what I see most frequently is people are looking for more connections, right, with their customers. I mean, they start out with that mindset, and at first they say, "Well, we're going to use AI to automate everything." And one thing that we learned from 2025 was that doesn't necessarily work. People do need people. They do need some degree of people interaction.
Yeah.
So I challenge people to think about the workflow. Sure, find out what things AI is good at, right? Dazzle, right, your customers, dazzle the interaction, but also make sure that you bring in those human moments, right? Nobody wants to just, play with a robot all day, right? It's fun to play
Mm,
with robots, right? My good friend Charlie Isaac he's in the Salesforce ecosystem in charge of robots, but he has dazzled me with robots. But at the same time, I do love interacting with people all over the world, right? So you need both of those, right? And I think making sure that leaders understand that. Don't just think that, hey, I'm going to save a lot of money and this is all going to work, right? You're going to see technology augment humans. We are going to a whole new level, and it is going to be magical.
mm. From our conversation, and even before we, when we're talking, before we even started this podcast, it's obvious that you're such a believer in people. Whenever it comes to technology, you don't leave out the people aspect of technology. So, in your work supporting enterprise sales teams, how do you advise organizations to rethink people, process, and technology?
Yeah, what I like to do is I actually like to listen from the sales team themselves. Just ask them some interesting questions. What do you enjoy doing? Right? What part? Everybody has their own, core competency of what they're good at in a sales transaction. And you kind of ask them, what do you like to do? And some of them, say, hey, I love to give speeches. Okay, that's going to be pretty valuable. Some of them say, I just love those moments. For me, it's, the in and out moment. I just love to, hang out with people and show them something that's really precious to me. And then I have them re envision the parts of the work that they don't like to do. And a lot of times it's like, I really don't like researching, right, my client. I spend so much time on there, or I don't like putting in the notes after that transaction, to take notes so that I know everything we talked about. I said, well, that's perfect, right? That's what AI is good at. It's great at, right, scheduling things. It's great at putting in the notes, and then it's great at, organizing the different people out there that you're going to be interacting with. It can actually build a lens right into each of your customers, which I think is just magical. That's what we're looking for.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you for putting that out there. And just, putting the whole process together, not leaving one without the other or leaving people outside of the conversation. I love the fact that you mentioned you go straight to the sales team and just ask them, what is the problem? What are you facing? Imagine creating solutions, but then leaving out the people that need the solutions, leaving them out of the equation. That will not be balanced, right? So you are a Salesforce application and systems architect with over 20 certifications. So in your experience, why do you think Salesforce transformation projects still fail?
I think a lot of people either, like I said earlier, right? They get really, really excited. It could be some, business leaders. They see everything that AI can do, and they start thinking, well, let's save a lot of costs. And I think that's probably the wrong mentality, right? What you want to be thinking of is how can we come up with new innovation that will bring more, right, revenue in. And then I also think that people then sometimes start too big, right? Most of the time they bite off more than they can chew. And it's not the AI that actually doesn't perform. It's actually the system behind it. They're not ready yet. There is so much that goes into an agentic solution besides the LLM or the different models that are
Yeah.
powering it, right? There's the data, right? And if your data isn't curtailed the right way for your solution, you won't get the output. So that's what I'm really seeing, that people just get overly excited. They don't understand that it's a system, right? It's kind of like a car, right? You need to have trust in the whole car. So there is the engine, and some people get wowed by, hey, I have a 5.0 Mustang engine, it's really fast. But you also need to make sure that the brakes work, right? Because if the brakes aren't working or the whole system is not building
Mm.
trust, right, you're going to find out that your users are not going to actually use the system. And that's definitely one of the places that you're starting to see some failure.
Yes, yes. You mentioned readiness. You mentioned that the organizations have to be ready. So, how can you, for organizations or business leaders listening to this, what would you say are three key things that they should really, really consider, apart from, what we've been talking about, or apart from the importance of, you know, knowing why you need this system, knowing that, okay, certain things have to be in place. What are the three things that you believe business leaders need to know in order to be ready for them to do? And then they know that, okay, when I do these things, I'm ready to bring on and integrate AI into my sales process.
Perfect. Yeah. One thing that I want people to have is a future mindset, number one, which is probably a little bit of an unusual response, but you need to see where the world's going. So when I talk a lot about humans, right, and why that's going to be so important, right, in the workflow, it's because I see the future world where there are agentic solutions everywhere. We have 8.3 billion people in this world, and we will probably have over 8.3 billion agents, right? So you want to figure out if agents are everywhere, if they're as numerous as the sands on the beach, you want to have like something that's going to differentiate yourself, right? And that's where people come in. So make sure that they have that mindset and understand their biggest asset is their people. Then, right, like we talked about a little bit, right? Don't go too big. Find one thing that's meaningful, right, with your sales team or with your business, right? And then tackle that first, right? And then while you're doing that, right, I'm sure you're going to curtail your data as much as you can for that particular application. But understand, right, that as you are making the agentic solution, there might be tweaks. You don't just build it once with AI, right? You build it and then you keep testing it, right? Because the data can change. It could become irrelevant or it could become dirty later on, something of that nature. So you're constantly trying to make sure that the synergy between the two things, the agentic solution and the data, right, is always in sync. So you constantly keep testing it, right? Don't just build it
Mm,
once and then say, hey, how about a year later? Is this thing working like we thought? And be like, probably not, right? There was probably some tweaks that needed to be made.
mm. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we've spoken about the fact that you are very optimistic about AI. Not everybody is, but I know this is part of your work and you're very optimistic about the future and people just you talking about how people do not have to be scared and it's like, oh, this big bad AI, another thing I love is how you always talk about the human factor and the people side of this transformation, right? So, just to hone in on that, because you said that people are the major assets. If we have 8+ billion people in the world, and in the future we're going to have more than 8+ billion agents existing, what do you think is more important? People are the most important assets that you have, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about the human side of this transformation, right? So what do you think that more people should understand about the people side of this transformation? And is there something that you can just give out to people that are scared of AI or, just embracing the technology and how helpful it's going to be? People that, have all of this scary idea of the future. What's that one thing that you say to them, and also just hone in more on the people side of transformation?
Yeah, I like to point out a lot of times that AI is the new electricity or the new oil, right? It's a very unique technology because you build on top of it. So initially, we saw electricity come in, right? And if we would have just had fear, and fear breaks down love, right? Or excitement of something, right? We would have stalled. But people got excited. They said, we have electricity. Then got the microwave, the blender, right? The vacuum cleaner,
Yes.
and so much more. So there
Yes.
is so much opportunity, right? To build with AI, It's probably endless, right? The type of things that we can build. And with that, humans and their unique human skills of actually understanding what society is looking for, compassion, right? And then also
Mm.
really a lot of empathy for everybody that's going through this. So think of ways that you can help people to right, to trans into this time, to transcend the new technology, right? I think that's really important. Always remember to yourself initially, right? You saw in 2025, everybody was talking about it. Even Oprah Winfrey was like, "Hey, AI is going to replace, all the workers," and you're like,
Yes,
yeah,
yes,
we've been
yes.
through this before. It's not, right? This world is, right, made for humans by humans. So we will find a way to use the latest tool of the day, which is AI, right? And then augment ourselves. And I'm already starting to feel like I'm getting augmented, right? I'm having
Yeah.
extraordinary opportunities. I'm able to impact more people as I use AI, right? And then I'm also able to accentuate my creativity, right? And you can see it definitely got my excitement, right, and inspiration up a little bit. So embrace it, right, and then take advantage of, as Jensen Wong likes to say, this is the most incredible time, right, to be alive. Literally, right? We are rebuilding everything up so you can make a difference. You can change the world right now. So it's just about that.
Hmm. Thank you, Scott. That was a very insightful what's the word, very insightful contribution. Thank you so much. Now that we're coming towards the end, is there one thing that you would want to add, apart from all of the questions that I've asked you so far? Is there something that you want to share with people concerning this topic that it's just in your heart and you just want to give out there?
Yeah, I would like people to approach, right, implementing technology, in particular, agentic solutions from 3 points of view, right? You're going to be in a company and you're going to say, okay, I want to augment our workflow, right? So start there. Make sure you listen to the people that are actually going to be using it, not just the people that are designing the system or management, number one. And then think about the impact, right? That will actually help you, right, to curtail the system. What is it going to do for your local community? Right? How are they going to react to whatever solution that you're putting in there, right? If you're using AI ambient listening, right, to take notes, just think a little bit about like what that's going to do, right? Whether they're going to appreciate it, whether they're going to feel trust in that system or be worried about where that data, right, that is being collected is going. And then think about, I think everybody should do this last one. Think about our world, right? We're literally able to redesign it, right? All over 8.3 billion. Think about the problems that we have. What do you want? And let's make it happen. If you're looking for a cleaner world, bam, right? We have technology, we have solar panels that are going in everywhere, right? We can do amazing things. If you're looking for more connection, we're able now, right, to allow people to use technology and not be tethered to the computer. You're going to see that the glasses there, right, where you can actually go out, but yet still be able to be in the flow of work. So think about what you want and then make it happen, right? This is our time, right? As we like to say at Rise with Voice, humans, this is your time to shine. So don't be
Mm.
quiet. Don't get fear, but actually say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And you will be really amazed at the impact that you can have. It's just incredible.
Oh, thank you so much, Scott. Thank you for sharing this with us. We are grateful to have had you on the podcast, on this episode. And it was a very meaningful conversation as I was, trusting that we are going to have. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our listeners. Until next time. Bye.
Bye, you guys.